Hi everyone and welcome to my Investing for Retirement channel. We're here today because I'm in absolute awe of how my portfolio has performed so far this year. It's absolutely insane. Today is January 14th, 2026, and so far my portfolio is up by a little bit over $8,000, which is about 3.55% of the total value of the portfolio. And this is crazy, especially since currently my little portfolio is literally outperforming the S&P 500. So I know it's a little bit early. Anything can happen tomorrow, but it's still exciting to see that as of right now, my rate of return for this year is 3.32%. Or actually, that was the rate as of yesterday. So it's a little bit higher today. Anyhow, I wanted to share with you what my portfolio looks like and how different ETFs have been behaving over these past couple of weeks. So if we scroll down, first you see that I have a few individual stocks. This is mostly just for fun. It's just a small portion of my total portfolio. Some of them are doing okay right now, some of them not so much, but we're not going to dwell on this in this particular video. But if we scroll down to my ETFs, as you will see, I have 6 of them. And when I started this brokerage account back in January 2020, so it's been basically exactly 6 years ago, I initially started with just 4 ETFs. I had SCHA, SCHB, SCHF, and SHZ. So the idea at the time was to have representatives of the US small market cap, the broad market, as well as the international market, and of course, some bonds for stability. So a little bit later, I think it was actually, I don't know, 2 years ago. Yeah, I think it was about 2.5 years ago when I started to invest in SHD because I realized I would love to have an ETF that brings me a little bit more dividends to complement the growth that I see in SCHB, for example. And then about, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago or so, I decided to also start investing in the emerging markets, and I picked SCHE for that. So if we take a little bit of a closer look at all of these, we have again SCHA. It's been up and down the past 5 years. It's currently on an upward trend. It's at its highest basically in that time period. It is a fund that has 1,747 holdings, relatively very low net expense ratio. The distribution yield for it is 1.26%. And if we take a look at the top 10 companies in terms of holding weight, we see at the very top we have SanDisk. And to be completely honest with you, I don't know anything about any of those other companies, but I'm still happy to have that particular ETF. Then, if we go to SCHB, this is the US Broad Market ETF, and this is basically my idea of having an ETF that represents the S&P 500, except that in this particular case, in addition to basically all the companies that are in the S&P 500, there's quite a few more for a total of 2,408 total holdings. Very low expense ratio, again 0.03%, and distribution yield of 1.11%. And so here, the top 10 players are NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet Class A, Broadcom, Alphabet Class C, Meta, Tesla, and Berkshire Hathaway Class B. So this has been a very well performing ETF over the past couple of years. Next, I have SCHD, which has been underperforming these past few years. Currently seems to be again going on an upward trend, and the distribution yield for this ETF is 3.82%. So this is the one ETF that brings me the most dividends. It has 103 total holdings. And here we see in the top 10 Lockheed Martin, Bristol Myers Squibb, Chevron, Merck, the Home Depot, ConocoPhillips, Texas Instruments, Altria, Coca-Cola, and Verizon Communications. Now, after that, I have SCHE, which is the emerging markets. And again, this is not an ETF that I expect too much of, but I still think it's important to invest a small portion of my portfolio in it. And who knows, if I'm lucky, it may do well over time. This ETF has distribution yield of 2.87%, net expense ratio of 0.07%, and 2,163 holdings. Here, the top 10 companies are again mostly companies that I do not recognize. However, the top player is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, which is doing really, really well at the moment. That is probably the only competitor to NVIDIA at the minute. Then we have Alibaba and Xiaomi, Class B. So I also have SCHF, the International Equity Fund. This is also going upwards for this past year. It has distribution yield of 3.41% and low net expense ratio. As you can see, this is the theme from all of my ETFs, and the total holdings are 1,498. Here we see at the very top we have ASML, we have then Samsung, Roche, AstraZeneca, HSBC Holdings, We also see Novartis on this list and Nestle. And last but not least, I have SHZ, which is the US Aggregate Bond ETF, underperforming at the moment. I guess that is normal. I don't really mind. It still brings me a lot of dividends. It's the second highest dividend payer after SHD in my portfolio. The last year, this ETF alone brought me around $1,100. So I don't really mind that it is underperforming at the moment. That's fine. Eventually things will change. Distribution yield for it is 4.05% at the moment. And it has, 11,724 holdings. And again, the 0.03% expense ratio. And here you can see the top 10 holdings. So this, in a nutshell, is my portfolio at the moment. And I do not really plan to change anything in terms of the numbers of ETFs that I have at the time. And my strategy is to just keep investing. And I have to say, in times like this, when everything is going up at the same time, it is really easy for me to convince myself to wait. I'm like, oh, wait, maybe in a couple of days things will go down again, and I should probably wait to make my investments for the month until that, when that happens. But this is really the wrong mindset to have, because of course there's no guarantee that things will go up or down tomorrow. And generally I try to invest once per month, usually around the middle of the month, which would be right about now. But I really just wanted to make a video first of how much my portfolio has grown without any new contributions for 2026. And this is all for today. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are. And if you were thinking about investing and haven't started yet, just remember that there's no better time than right now.